Yo guys, today is the day when our wet setup series properly starts. And I know a lot of you guys have been after these for the past few weeks, but you can blame Codemasters for the delay. They released the 1.06 patch, which basically ripped up the car setup rulebook, meaning I had to update all of our existing dry setups first. But they're all complete now, so with a little luck, hopefully Cody's won't touch the handling model again in the near future, and I can move on to our full wet setup series. So I'm going to kick things off with the most unlikely of scenarios, a wet race setup for Bahrain. Now, you guys will probably never need this setup in career mode, but, well, here it is anyway. Kicking things off, we've gone with a front wing aero of 18 and a rear wing aero of 24. You'll see through a lot of these setups that the aero is going to be much higher than in the dry setups, and that's just because you need more downforce in the rain. And all of these wet setups in this series are created for the very wet race condition, so as wet and rainy as you can get with the full wet tyres. If you're using intermediates, you're going to have to create a hybrid car setup between this and the dry setup. But back to this Bahrain setup first. Moving on to the transmission, I've gone 50% on the on and off throttle diff. This will be the norm with most of these setups. Some setups might use sort of 50 to 60% on throttle, but for Bahrain, I've gone right down to 50% to help with traction out of the slower corners. Then for the suspension geometry, I've gone right, left. Again, this is kind of the norm now with F122 setups. It was the same with previous games as well. In the rain, you don't need to worry as much about keeping your tyre temperatures down as you do in the dry, so you can run more aggressive suspension geometry and tyre pressures. If anything, you'll struggle to get heat into your tyres in the rain. Then looking at the suspension setup itself, I've gone 3 on the front suspension, 1 on the rear, and then 4 on the front anti-roll bar and 1 on the rear again. So I've softened things down a lot just to make the car a little bit more easy to drive. And then for the ride height, I've gone 6 at the front and 5 at the rear. Again, this is higher than it is in our dry setup to avoid any aquaplaning. And for the brake setups, I finally used something different other than 100% pressure and 50% brake bias. I've lowered the pressure all the way down to 94%. What this will do is essentially it will make your brakes easier to manage during a race. You won't lock up as easily. So with this setup, you can apply full brake pressure for a little bit before you have to start lifting off as you approach the corner apex. And then for the tyre pressures, I've actually gone pretty high here. Go 24.8 on both fronts and 22.3 on both rears. In previous F1 games, it was beneficial to drop your tyre pressures down in the rain, which would in theory create a larger contact patch with the road, increasing traction. But if you do that in F122, your tyre temperatures are going to plummet through the floor, and you're going to really struggle to get any heat into your tyres and any grip really. So I've gone pretty aggressive here, and this will probably be the norm throughout these wet setups. Remember, if you're racing in intermediate conditions and not the full wet heavy rain condition, you may need to lower these a little bit closer to how they are in the dry setup. And that will go and do it for our first wet race setup of F122. I'll be releasing these videos pretty much daily, and I'll be doing each race in the order that it appears in the calendar. So don't go requesting different track setups because I'll get there when it appears in the calendar. Best thing to do is to subscribe to this channel and turn on your alert bell notifications to be alerted when a new video drops. And smash that like button, leave a comment below, as that will really help this video rank in YouTube and help other people see it. But for now guys, I'm going to get back to F122 and I will see you on track.